Palestinian militants have fired a barrage of mortar shells across the border with Israel in retaliation to hundreds of airstrikes targeting Hamas's militant infrastructure. There's been a brief pause in violence overnight, allowing the UN to send a small fuel convoy into Gaza. Fighting has since resumed, with Palestinians launching a day of demonstrations and strikes in Jerusalem and the West Bank. Hundreds of people burned tyres and hurled stones before Israeli police fired gas bombs, stun grenades at demonstrators. A Palestinian man was killed and more than 70 wounded, including 2 Israeli soldiers. The UN says more than 52,000 Palestinians have been displaced and 450 buildings destroyed or damaged. Amnesty International suggests some Israeli airstrikes may amount to war crimes. Well, joining me live now is Jason Lee, Save the Children's country director for the occupied Palestinian territory. Appreciate your time this morning, Jason. Can you give us an idea this morning about the stories that you're hearing from the ground?
Good morning. Look, it's absolutely getting worse every day. The situation is getting worse. It's more dire. We see the increasing number of casualties, children being killed, children being injured. I want everyone to remember children are disproportionately affected by this conflict. I mean, of the 213 people that have been killed, 62 of them are children. That means 1 out of every 3 people being killed is a child. Similarly, with the numbers of injuries, 1,400 civilians injured and 400 of them children. And these are life-changing injuries. Many of these children will acquire lifelong disabilities.
How's it been overnight, Jason? How heavy has the rocket attacks been?
Look, every night I get the messages from my teams that they're absolutely scared, they're petrified, their children are scared. I mean, we hear reports, many of my teams had to flee their homes as well because it's just too close to where the airstrikes are striking. They're now sheltering with families, trying to find somewhere, along with 52,000 other people that have basically fled their homes with nothing more than the clothes on their back and a few belongings. And they're sheltering in schools. My teams tell me that their children can't sleep at night. They've seen their children become really withdrawn. They're too scared to go outside to play. They look out the window thinking, is their home going to be destroyed next? I mean, what would a parent do? I mean, they tell their kids that everything's going to be okay, but children may not understand what's happening. But they see and they hear everything. And, I mean, it's heartbreaking. What do you tell your child if your child asks you, am I going to die? I mean, what can you say to that?
Have you had any report, and there has been reports in recent times and recent wars, as a matter of fact, that Hamas militants ended up bunkering down in schools and operating from schools knowing that they wouldn't be bombed. Is that anything that you're hearing this time around? Have you got any evidence of that?
Look, we don't know. I don't know anything about that, but I also want to point out Gaza and the Gaza Strip is one of the most densely populated places on earth. If it were a country, it would be the 4th most densely populated country. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. And this is why it's really important that we're calling for all sides to respect their obligations under international law, which means that civilian infrastructure has to be protected. Civilians, especially children, cannot be targeted.
The fuel supplies that are coming in, Jason, how important is that for, particularly for the hospitals to be able to carry out their work?
Oh, look, it's absolutely critical. And just to point out, there was supposed to be a convoy of 24 trucks today entering Gaza, including fuel, essential life-saving supplies and medicines. Only 5 of those trucks made it through because of the ongoing fighting. Now, without fuel, there is no electricity. Hospitals cannot function without electricity. The desalination plant is not working as well without fuel, which means there's no water, there's no sanitation. Any health facility can never function without these 3 basic requirements. And on top of that, you've got an ongoing COVID outbreak. You've got hundreds of people coming to the hospitals every day. The roads leading to the main hospital, Shifa Hospital, has been so badly damaged that ambulances, civilians can't make their way through the main roads. They've got to weave through tiny roads just to get to medical care.